Hello, Algebra 1 lovelies. Here we go. Yesterday you did raising a power to a power, and you did wonderful on the assignment, so hopefully all these things are getting checked off. Today we're going to simplify expressions with 0 and negative exponents. So that's going to start on page 11. I'm only going to do two examples. I think you can catch on pretty quick when you do this. Remember, when you divide, you subtract exponents. When you multiply, you add exponents. There's my two hints. So the first one is if we multiply, we add. So what this means is we have x to the 0 plus 1. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means x to the first. Well, that's kind of weird how that worked out because we had x to the 0 and x to the 1, and that just gave us x to the 1 or x. Then we're going to use that division, the quotient rule. So when we divide, we subtract exponents. So we have x to the 4 minus 0, which is x to the 4th. That's fascinating. So what are we finding out that 0 is not doing? Well, I want you to work out those other three, and then we'll come back. So pause right here, try to do it, and try to figure it out for yourself. Okay, so we're back. So I did this a bunch of different ways. I did 2 cubed divided by 2 cubed, and I expanded it out. You saw that we have cancellation, 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 and it equals 1. It doesn't equal 0, right? Because 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that's how I got 1. Or I used that quotient rule where I subtracted. 2 to the 3 minus 3 equals 2 to the 0, which is going to be 1. Same with the second one. I did it two ways. I used the multiplication rule where we add 3 plus negative 3, and we got 2 to the 0, which is 1. Or I did it 2 cubed times, and then I noticed that this gave me a reciprocal. 1 divided by 2 cubed, which turns into 2 cubed divided by 2 cubed, which also canceled to give me 1. In this one, I used that addition rule again. I did x to the 3 plus 0, which gave me x cubed. And I realized that it was any multiplying by the 0 is like multiplying by 1. So that gave me x cubed. So really, this x to the 0 is 1. So in words, anything to the 0 power is 1. So these will go quick. So 133 to the 0th power is 1. A to the 0th power is 1, and 1 times anything is itself. So this is just a to the 5th. Again, anything to the 0th power is 1. So x to the 17th divided by 1 is just x to the 17th. All of this madness is raised to the 0th power. So this would be 1, this would be 1, this would be 1, this would be 1, everything. That whole thing just turns into a big old 1. Again, that whole thing was raised to the 0th power. Anything to the 0th power is 1. So that was pretty nice. That's a nice little property. So now we're going to do the 0 exponents, and I want to show you a little more. So we got 2 cubed, or 2 squared divided by 2 cubed. I'm going to expand it out. 2 times 2 times 2. Well, what happened was we get some cancellation, cancel, cancel, and we still have a 2 on the bottom. So this means over 2. Well, we didn't cancel everything out. It was 1 over 2. If we did the other way, the subtraction rule, we would get 2 to the 2 minus 3 power, which is 2 to the negative first. So that 2 to the negative first is that 1/2. It flipped it. So we got 1/2. Let's add them this time. So if we get 2 cubed plus negative 2, remember multiplication rule, we get 2 to the first. Okay, let's expand it out. Let's go backwards and do it that way where we flip it. So I have my 2 cubed, I'm going to leave that alone, there's an or, times, and now I'm going to flip 1 over 2 squared. Okay, that negative made me flip. So what really happened was we have 2 times 2 times 2, that 2 cubed, divided by 2 squared, and we get some cancellation. Cancel, cancel, we get 2 to the first, which is what we had over here, which is just 2. Then I want to do 2 more. Again, quotient rule. I could look at this 2 ways. I could look at this x to the 0 as 1, and we would just have 1 over x to the 4th, or I could do x to the 0 minus 4, which is x to the negative 4, and then we learned what that was just now. It is 1 over x to the 4th. You see some connections that are being formed? Hopefully you're connecting these ideas. They're really all the same. Then we've got x cubed and x to the negative 2. So I have 2 ways. Again, I can subtract x cubed minus negative 2. Remember that minus minus that we had? When we subtract a negative, that means x to the 3 plus 2, which is x to the 5th. Or if I do it the other way, I can flip this and I can get x cubed times, now I'm going to flip that x to the negative 2 over, and I get x squared over 1. I kind of flipped it over, and then I can add, now I can multiply, so I get x to the 3 plus 2, which is the same thing. Okay, last one. So I've got x to the negative 2. I can switch that over the fraction bar and make it positive. That's what I mean by flipping. So I can do x to the 6th times x squared. That was my negative 2 going over the fraction bar and becoming positive. Or then I've got my y's to deal with. So I got my y cubed minus 3. 3 minus 3, right? I'm using the quotient rule because it's division. So I get x to the 8th and y to the 0th, which is just x to the 8th. Remember, that turned into 1. Okay, so that's why these rules are connected if you didn't notice. All right, work it out on your own. We'll come back. All right, welcome back. That was one of the toughest ones. Let's see how you did. So I have a multiplication rule. So I added my exponents, negative 3 plus 2, which is 2 to the negative 1. And then I flipped it. That negative made me do the reciprocal. That 1 over 2, right? That's 2 over 1, and it flipped over. Then I did the same thing. I added 3 plus negative 3 is 2 to the 0, which is 1, which we already learned. Or I can do it this way. I had the 2 cubed, and then I did my reciprocal right away. I multiplied them out. I got 2 cubed divided by 2 cubed, which canceled to give me 1. Okay, a lot of options. Then I did my quotient rule where I subtracted this time. X to the 3 minus 5 gave me x to the negative 2, which is 1 over x squared, right? It flipped over. Those took the reciprocal. Then I did negative 3 minus 2, that quotient rule, and got x to the negative 5, and then it flipped. Or I flipped it right away. I brought that negative down to the bottom, and I got 1 over x cubed and times x squared. Both of them are on the bottom now, which multiplied to give me x to the 5th. Then there was 2 ways to do this one too. I had negative 3 minus a negative 2, right? We subtracted because of the quotient rule, and it was already negative, made a double negative. So that gave me x to the negative 3 plus 2, which is x to the negative 1, so 1 over x. Or I flipped both of them over because that one was negative and it went over, and that one was negative and it went over and became positive. So then we got x squared on the top, x cubed on the bottom. I expanded it out to show you that we have the cancel cancel, and 1 over x was left over. Both great ways of doing it. Then I just used my quotient rule again. I had x to the negative 7 minus, because it's dividing, x to the negative 3. So we had negative 7 minus minus, which turns into negative 7 plus 3, x to the negative 4th. Then my y's, I had y to the negative 5th, minus, because we're dividing, negative 5. Double negative again, negative 5 plus 5 gives me y to the 0, which is 1. So then I had my negative x and it went over. So hopefully you noticed that that negative goes over the fraction bar. Okay, we take the reciprocal. A negative exponent goes over the fraction bar, aka we're taking the reciprocal. Okay, so again, there's the over 1, and that's how it flips and now becomes positive. All right, that's it.